Hello everyone, welcome to another session, another time of lesson. So today we're going to discuss control flow, which is the main lesson for this week. So last week we discussed the basic Python syntax and data types. We talked about the different kinds of data, you can recall. We talked about variables, we talked about comments, we talked about operators, right? So now we're going to be looking at these conditional statements: if, else, elif, then loops. Oh, sorry for that. Loops, which is for and while loops. So control flow is the order in which the computer executes statements in a script. Yes, that's how an interpreter works. Control flow is just the order in which the interpreter runs the code. Remember that Python works line by line, so the code is run line by line in Python by default. Or you can change this order using what we call control flow, right? You can change the order. So here we have code is run in order from the first line in the file to the last line. That's in Python. It is not so in every programming language. So, but you can change this using conditionals and loops, which are known as control flow, right? Which are known as you can change the control flow, that is the way the program operates, the way the program runs, using conditionals and loops. You can make it not to go line by line from the first line to the last line using conditionals and loops. Now, conditionals. Now, in our daily lives, we usually make some decisions based on some certain circumstance, criteria. For example, I could say that if there's power supply, I will watch some movies. Otherwise, I will sleep. What does this imply? This means that if 1 is fulfilled, statement 1, if it is fulfilled, that is, if there's power supply, then I will do statement 2, which is watch some movies. But otherwise, which is most often the case in Nigeria, power supply is not stable. So otherwise, which is if there is no power supply, I will sleep. So which is if condition 1 is not satisfied, I'll just jump over to condition 3. No, I mean if this condition is not satisfied, I will just jump over to this decision, which is statement 3, meaning I will just go to bed and rest my body. So so in Python we have 3 kinds of conditional statements. We have if, else, and elif. If, else, and elif. Elif is just the short form of else if. Okay. So I want to do some demonstrations. Let's head over to VS Code and have some demonstrations. In VS Code. Okay, there we are. I just want to enlarge this a little bit so that you can see it better. So we just talked about the 3 kinds of conditionals we can have in Python, which is if, else, and elif, right? Okay. So let's say you want to determine if somebody has fever or not. Normally the temperature that indicates the normal temperature should be what? Is that not 37 degrees C? Let's take it 37 degrees C at this time. So I can say temp, meaning temperature, equals I'm not going to use now if I just use input, this will just take input and take it as a string. But I want to work on this, I want to do some calculation on this, so I'll say int inputs, meaning change whatever the user enters as input, change it to a string, change it to an integer, sorry, an integer. So I can just say enter your temperature. Let's not forget to add comments. This code checks whether you have fever or not. I could say, okay. So enter your temperature. But now temperature of, let me just assume in this case that temperature of 37 degree and below does not indicate fever, while temperature of above that indicates fever. So I can just say if, remember that we are talking about conditionals, so the number one conditionals we have in Python is if. Okay, I can say if temp, I cannot say if temp is, remember we want to check if the temperature is greater than 37 degree, that is the person has fever. If temperature is greater than 37, now after writing your conditional, your condition or your conditional, you put colon here, right? You put colon. Why it's still red is because we have not entered anything in the next line. Now this is how you write your conditional. If first, that's the statement. If, that's the keyword. Remember we talked about keywords previously. Keywords are predefined words in Python that are used for certain things. Like this, if is a conditional keyword. So if temp greater than 37, this is the condition. This is the first condition we are given, right? We are saying if the temperature that we have collected here is greater than 37 degrees C. Right now you press enter. You notice what just happened. Let me do that again. You know, normally if we are pressing enter, normally the cursor will start at this place, but after this colon here, typing enter takes us, let me delete this one, takes us a bit further. It moves away from here and moves here. This is what we call indentation in Python. Now indentation is used to define blocks of code, that is from a particular line to another line is a block of code. Now anything you write here will fall under this if statement. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So anything you write under here, under this indentation, will fall under this code. The moment you jump out of this indentation, you are out of this block of code. So let's write, if it is greater than 37, we want it to say that you have fever, right? Print you have fever, please consult a doctor immediately, and put an exclamation mark because it's suggesting urgency, immediately, right? So if we click enter, you will see that it's still wanting to continue from here because it believes we are still under this place. But now we want to be out of this condition, right? You know, we have another condition, which is if the temperature is not greater than 37, that is if it is less than or equal to 37, you are safe, right? So you can say else. Now the usefulness of this else is to indicate otherwise. Remember the other time I said from here I said if there is power supply, I'll watch some movies. So this if there is power supply, I'll watch some movies, there must be something else that will that will happen if this does not happen, if this is not satisfied, right? I can say if I have money, I will buy a car. Otherwise, I will not buy a car. So there must be otherwise. Now that otherwise is the else statement. Now this one does not need you to write anything again. Whatever you write here, it will be read. So you just put colon and you press enter. And once again, Python automatically indents it. It gives it indentation, right? Indentation. So this by default, the indentation is one tab actually. So but you can choose 2 spaces, 3 or 4 spaces, but you have to be consistent with it. But let's stick with what it gives us by default because it's always safe, right? It's always safe. So else you can say print you are okay. So if the temperature is greater than 37, Python will print that you have fever. Then if it is not greater than 7, that is if it is 37 or less than 37, it will print that you are okay. So because we said else, that is every other condition apart from this. So let's run it and see what it gives us. Okay. So enter your temperature. So I can say my temperature is 48. If you click it, you see what it says. You have fever, please consult a doctor immediately. What if I rerun it? Okay, and I enter 36, says you are okay. I can still rerun it and enter 37, says you are okay. But anything I enter that is greater than 37, let's say 100 again, it says you have fever. So that's how conditionals work. That's if else. Now this is the simplest kind of conditional you can have. Are you getting it? Though you can have only if actually. This is just a demonstration. You can have only if, but most of the times you will not have just if in the real world. So now let's introduce else if. Else if, that is a if. Now else if is used to state more than 2 conditions, because sometimes we may have more than 2 conditions, right? We may have more than 2 conditions. So can you think of a particular situation where we can have like 3 conditions? 3 conditions. Well, I'm thinking too. So what's that situation where we have 3 conditions? 3 conditions. Okay. Let me just say, okay. Let me say cash at hand equals to let me say if I have let me say assuming I want to buy either a PC or a smartphone, right? And PC, let's assume is 200,000 and phone is 100,000. So I want to write conditionals for whether I will buy phone or system, or I'll just keep my money. Okay, so I can say cash at hand equals to input how much do you have want to know how much you have at hand to know what you are going to buy. No, let's remove this. Okay. How much do you have? Now, if cash at hand equals, now in Python, if you want to write equal to, remember I told you that it will be double like this. Now this is just an assignment operator, so it's not equal to. So this is equal to. If it is equal to 200k, so what do we want to do? So if it is equal to 200k, I'll just say print. So I will advise you to buy a PC. Since your money is up to it, buy a PC. Now, I don't want to just say if the money is not 200k, you should not buy anything. I still want to say if the money is maybe 100k, you should consider buying a phone. But if the money is not now up to 100k, you should just ignore, don't do anything. So I can use an elif. Now the reason why I'm using elif is because I'm not yet ready to stop. Now normally when you use the if and else, the else actually brings an end to your code, because that's, you are saying anything else otherwise, right? So I can say elif, that means that is else if, otherwise saying if in case this is not satisfied, you can put another condition. Else if cash at hand is equal to what? 100k. You can say print buy a smartphone. Now we are definitely going to get have an issue here, because the reason is this: we are only giving conditions for 100k and 200k, and we are giving these as strings. It will actually evaluate it and work fine, but what if the values are going to be bigger? So let's kind of clear this and start using integers. Okay, let's turn this to an integer. Turn this to integer. So if cash at hand, let's say if your money is up to 200k or more, you buy PC. So you can say if your money is greater than or equal. Now let's remove this. It's greater than or equal to. Remember, it's also a kind of operator. Greater than or equal to. If your money is greater than or equal to 200, so you can say this cash at hand, how much do you have? Or in thousand. Okay, I'm trying to see how we can make this work. Let's call it dollars for the sake of this. How much do you have in dollars? So let's say if you have $200, you should consider buying a PC. So if cash at hand equals 200, that is, if it is equal to or greater than $200, you should consider buying a PC. You can say print. Okay, buy a PC. Now I want to say else if cash at hand, if it is now what? if it is equal to $100, if it is equal to $100, we can say if it is equal to $100 and you should understand this and I'm using, if it is equal to $100 and less than $200, let's see, why is this raising an exception? I think I understand why. Let's just keep it as equal to $100. Okay, to avoid unnecessary issue. So if it's equal to $100, you can say print buy a smartphone. I want to say else and this if your money is not equal to 200 or greater than 200 and is not equal to 100, else you can just say print keep your money. So let's run it. So you see it says how much do I have in dollars. Let's say I have $100. See what it says. It says I should buy a smartphone. Let's say, check again, I have $200. It says I should buy a PC. What if I have more than $200? $250. Says I should buy a PC. What if I now have $90? Says I should keep my money. That's just basically how you use a leave in your code. Now we could just end this with a leave only, right? You could end this with a leave only if you want. Okay, so now let's return to our code and check and let's return back to our presentation now. So now we've just discussed conditionals, the if, else, and the elif, or how we can use them. Now, I want to talk about loops. In Python, there are two types of loops. We have the while loop and the for loop. Now, the for loop is used for iterating over a sequence. That is, maybe a list, a tuple, a dictionary, a set, or a string. While the while loop can be used to execute a set of statements as long as the condition remains true. So let's jump right into that again. Again, I just want to comment this out. Okay, so let's check how do we use for loop actually, and what does it do. Like we said, it iterates over a sequence, right? What do you mean by iteration? What does it mean to iterate? Iterate just literally means to run through, go over, go through everything in a sequence. It could now be a list, a string, what have you. Now for instance, if I say my string, said if you want to write more than one word, you should use this. My string equals to, you want to create a string, right? My string equals to Lawrence. Okay, I can say for. Now this is the keyword for using the for loop from its name, for. Now we're going to pick each of these. What for loop will do is that it will take each of these letters one by one and work with it like we asked it to. So but you have to choose a variable to name each of these elements in the string, each of these items. So you can say for I, or you can say for item in. So this item is representing each of these that is taken one by one. So for item in my string, remember the variable is named my string, right? So for item in my string, remember you must always put your colon to end all your conditional statements or loops, like this for loop. So item in string, what we're going to do is that we should print the item itself. That is, what's the item? Meaning each of these that is taken one by one. Print item. If you run this, you see what it will do. To just take each of these one by one and print them out. You see what it did? It says LAWRENCE. So we can do more than that. We can say for each item, for item in my string, we can say print. You can say print item. Now I want to put a string with it. You can say is a letter of the English alphabet. So you should guess what this is going to do. What it's going to do is that it will take each of them and add this message to them. Now, this is a letter of the English alphabet, and so on and so forth. So let's run it and see what we get. So you see, L is a letter of the English alphabet, A is a letter of the English alphabet, and so on and so forth. That's basically what for loops does. It iterates over items. It iterates over them after the other. That's how for loops operate. That's how for loops operate. So some applications of it is that we might want to print, let's say, there's what we call range actually. We don't import range, do we? Do we import range? No. Now you should know what we call range. Range is actually is a kind of sequence that includes range of numbers from a particular number to another number. But you should know that range starts from the number you start it with and ends just before the number. Like if I write range, if I write range 1 comma 1000. What it will do is that it will start from 1 and end with 999. That means a number before this 1000. So I can say for I, remember this is how we write for loops. For I in range, I can say range 1 to 1001. If I want to count to stop at 1000, I have to put 1001. So I put my, what do we call it, okay. So that means we are going to take each of this one by one. We're going to say print I. So if you run it, you see what to do. It has to count from 1 to 1000. Let's see. It won't stop until it gets to 1000. So that's it. So I hope you understand how for loop operates now, in case you want to use it anytime. So, and this is range function. You can use it anytime also. There's also what we call random. We'll do is random. Yes, random. This random. So this is how you use random. Actually, you first import it. In case you want to use it, import random. So if I want to print a random number, I can just say num equals to random dots randint. Randint is standing for random integer. I can just say print number. So this is going to print a random integer for me. Though I didn't specify some things I want to specify. Okay, I understand what's going on. I'm supposed to indicate here random dot randint. I can say 1, 10, meaning that between a random integer between 1 and 10, I want it to pick any random number and just display it. So there you have it. It displays number 9. Just picked it randomly. If I run it again, it will display another number randomly. You have 5. That's how it will work. Randomly, just picks a number and displays it. It is very useful. You can use it for random in a game of number guessing. You can just ask the computer to pick a random number and then you guess that number. It is very useful. This mode is very useful. See how we use it. You import random, then you store the random integer in a variable and you use it as you like. So that's how we use it. Now, what of while loops? While loops. Let me just clear this off. Okay. Now remember we talked about range the other time. We're going to use it now. I can say while can say n equals to zero, right? We can start like that. We can now say while n in range one comma, let's say 10, between 1 and 10, 10 exclusive, like excluding 10. While n is here, we can say print n. Okay, let's take 0, or let's start from 1. Actually, let's take 1. I will explain the code briefly. So print n, but then here you can say n plus equals to 1. I will explain what it does. Let's run this and see what gets us. So see what it does. I will explain that. Now, if you are using while loops, there are some things that are important. Now we want to count from 1 to maybe to 9. So we are giving a default value for this n. We are starting it from 1, right? We want to start counting from 1. Now you are going to say while n in, meaning while this n exists inside here. Remember that while a loop, like we discussed here, it executes a set of statements as long as the condition remains true. So as long as this n is inside this range, as long as this is true, right, it will continue to print it. But now, what if I did not put this there? Do you know what it would have done? It would have continued printing 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. Are you getting it? I'll show you soon now. But what the purpose of this is to what? Increment the value of this n as it prints it. Instead of it continuing printing 1 1 1 1, as it prints 1, we are going to increase the value by 1. Remember that this assignment operator will add 1 and we add this value and assign it to this variable. Meaning from here, when it was, the variable was 1 here, but by the time it gets here, by the time it counts 1, it will go over, add 1 and make it 2, assign that 2 to this value. After printing that again, it will now, you know, n will be changing, right? At first it will be 1. By the time it finishes executing, it finishes executing this line, meaning by the time it finishes printing the number, then it will go over to this place, add 1, go back and print it. It will come here again after adding it, 3, it will go back here, print it, and so till it gets to the end of this range. Are you getting it? But like I said, let me remove this, or let me just comment it out. You see the funny thing that will happen right now. You see what I'm talking about? This code will never end. It will just continue running like that until we terminate it. The reason is that when you are, while loop will continue to execute while the condition is true, because 1 is always present in this range here, it will continue printing 1. Now if we want that to stop, we can either increment the value or we just enter break. I think this should do it. Let's see if that does it. You see, those are the 2 ways you can prevent that from happening. So I think you understand what this does now. So you can even use it to print numbers 1 to 1000, right? Okay. So you can even do some with it. You can say maybe sum from 1 to 10. You can say while this n is in this number, you can say now we want to be adding from 1 till we get to 10, right? Let me put 11 here so that you stop before so that you stop by 10. We want to be adding it, right? If we want to do that, we take 1, add it to what? To 2. Come in. We take 1 and add it to 2. Let's see if this works. Okay. Print n plus. Yeah. This will take the current value. Oh. No, let me say n plus 1, meaning n plus the next number, right? So you can now say n plus or equal to 1. So let's run it like this and see. That should add up our number once there. Let's see, what did he do? He did 1 plus 2, okay. After that, what did he do? 2 plus. This will be 2 plus 3. 1 plus 2, 3. And also, this is what we wanted to do, but I didn't enter it in the right way, actually. What we wanted it to do was to just calculate the sum of the numbers. Actually, there's a way we can use for loop to quickly do that. Okay. I want you to try that out and get back to me. Try that out. So print the sum of the first 10 whole numbers and get back to me. So now let's quickly see what we have left here. So then, combining conditionals and loops. Now if you combine loops and conditionals, it can make your code more powerful. So let's quickly try that. I want to combine loops. Okay. I want to combine loops and conditionals. Now let's say you want to check whether numbers are even or odd numbers, right? Numbers from 1 to 10. So you can just say for num in, that is for a particular number that we are picking one after the other. For num in range, remember the range function. For num in range 1, 11, meaning if you start from 1 and stop at 11, stop at 10 rather, right? Okay, let me clear this. I don't like this. So we want to check whether it's even or odd. Okay, even or odd. So for num in this range, you can say if. Now we want to check if it is even number. We want to print that it is an even number, right? We want to print that it is an even number. Now to do that, we use what we call comparison operator. Now comparison operator are this greater than, less than, and so on and so forth. Now if the number is divisible by 2, you know that's an even number, right? Like this, we can write it like this: if num modulo 2, meaning when we divide the number picked, when we divide it by 2, if the remainder is 0, remember this modulus operator returns the remainder of division. So if you take 1 divided by 2, if the result is 0, that is divisible by 2. But if the result is not 0, meaning it has a remainder, it is not divisible by 2. So if it's divisible by 2, that is if the modulo, the remainder, after dividing it by 2 is 0, then we know that it's an even number. So we can print what is it now? Now we want to say print num is an even number, right? But you know, if you want to concatenate it with a string, okay, is an even number. I want to show you something. We said unsupported operand type for int and string, that is, we can't use int and string integer, we can't just concatenate them, so we have to change this to a string at this point. So this should work better, but then we want the condition that else, if it's not an even number, guess what it is? So you say, let's just copy this, and paste it here. So we say it's an odd number instead. So if this condition is not satisfied, then it's an odd number. So let's run it. Remember, it's checking between 1 and 10, from 1 to 10. You see, 1 is an odd number, 2 is an even number, 3 is an odd number, 4 is an even number, 5 is an odd number, so on and so forth. So that's exactly what we want it to do. We can combine loops and conditional like that. You can combine it like that. Okay. You can use while also here. You can use while, but remember you have to assign this your num first here before you use it. Num equals to 1. So while num is inside this range, you can say if this, if that, but remember that you have to increment your num plus equals to 1. So I think this should work. Let's see if it works. So you see that it works just the same. 1 is odd, 2 is even. So with just a little adjustment, so we are doing the same thing that we did with for loop. So both of them actually can be used in the same instances. Most of the times they can be used in the same instances. So you see the adjustment I made. Because I want to use while, I have to start with a variable. I have to start with a particular value, right? 1. For does not need that because it will take each of the value one by one. But while needs a value because it wants to check whether a condition is true, right? So while the number, this one that we chose, is here, check whether it's even here and print it, and check whether it's odd here. But when you have checked the first one, you know to start with 1 now, right? So to check 1, when it saw that 1 is odd, they printed it. But instead, if we did not put this, it will just continue to print 1 is odd, 1 is odd, 1 is odd. Remember we got the other time. But because we have added it, that I should increment it by 1 after checking this number 1, and to move over to number 2 because it will add 1, making 2. Then you check 2 again, and it goes over and over again. I hope you've understood this. This is as far as we will go today. So let me quickly jump back to the presentation and show you the assignments for this lesson. Remember that if you should, in case you have any issue, you have any concept that is unclear to you in this video, you can just get back to me. You can jump into my DM and just let me know what issue you are having, and then we'll sort it out. And then don't forget that we're going to have our live class on Saturday. This time around I will not make it that late night. It may be in the night but not that late night, so that everyone can benefit, so that it will not be at an inconvenient time for everyone. So here's the assignments. So this is the first assignment. Assignment 1: you develop a program that classifies a person's age group based on their age. So these are the guidelines. Create a Python program that prompts, you have to prompt the user to enter their age, and use the conditionals to classify the user into one of the following age groups and print the results. So use these different conditions. If it is 0 to 12, then that you print that the person is a child. So you can just say you are a child. Okay. If it's 13 to 19, you know that's teenager. If it's 20 to 64, you know that's adult. So if it's 65 and above, you know that's senior, right? That's so I hope you understand this. And this assignment 2: you build a simple number guessing game where the user tries to guess a randomly generated number. You write a Python program that randomly selects a number between 1 and 50. Remember the random module I introduced to you. Feel free to use that. So you generate a number, a random number between 1 and 50. You prompt the user to guess the number. Use a loop to allow multiple attempts and conditionals to give feedback on whether the guess is too high, too low, or correct. Then end the game when the user guesses the correct number. Remember that your assignments, the deadline will be Sunday by 11:59. Right, don't forget that. So thanks for joining today. Thanks in anticipation for watching the video.